Lowe. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Automotive Aftermarket Industry Association. The motor vehicle aftermarket is a significant sector of the U.S. economy, employing approximately 4.5 million people. The AAIA represents more than 100,000 repair shops, parts stores, and distribution outlets. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee. I'm pleased to present this testimony on this very important issue. As you said, our industry represents the independent aftermarket. It's everything that happens to a car once it leaves the new car showroom. Since the invention of the vehicle, the U.S. has had the most competitive vehicle aftermarket in the world, as has already been stated in this hearing. Americans currently have a wide array of choices in vehicle repair, whether it's going back to the dealer or to the thousands of independent repair shops that are in every community in this nation. This competition has kept car owners and not the vehicle manufacturers in the driver's seat when it comes to making choices regarding vehicle repair destinations. While we are proud of our service to the American motoring public, we are extremely concerned that the dynamics of the market are changing and that our independent shops are being placed at a competitive disadvantage. This change has nothing to do with the efforts that our independents are investing in servicing the public, but rather the attempts, whether intentional or not, by manufacturers to use technology to obtain a competitive advantage for their dealer network, an advantage that dealers have been unable to gain through customer service or price. Left unchecked, we will soon see the car companies controlling decisions as to where a car is repaired and not the person who spent their hard-earned money to purchase that vehicle. The U.S. Congress foresaw the role of technology would play in the repair market back in the late 80s when the Clean Air Act was being debated. Back then, the act required that onboard diagnostic computers be put on every car that would monitor the emission system and alert the car owner to emissions defect. While it was anticipated these OBD systems would ensure that cars would operate more effectively in use regarding pollution, they were also concerned that car companies would use this technology to keep the independent aftermarket out by making access to these computers proprietary and forcing the independent service industry out of the market. Therefore, provisions were added into the 1990 Act that would require onboard computers be accessible without the need for proprietary tools, and that any information needed to repair the emission system be made available to the independent aftermarket. While this provision did permit car companies to retain trade secrets, the legislation specified that no information may be withheld if that information was provided either directly or indirectly to the new car dealer. However, the gains made by the Act are tempered in the last several years by the fact that computers now being installed on vehicles go well beyond emissions, monitoring and controlling nearly every function of a vehicle, from safety to entertainment. Further, new technologies are coming quickly down the pike that could provide the vehicle manufacturers with even more competitive advantage when it comes to repairing a customer's vehicle. It is with this in mind that AAIA and the Coalition for Auto Repair Equality, who's also I am testifying on behalf of, and a number of consumer groups are strongly supporting passage of the Motor Vehicle Owners' Right to Repair Act. Introduced by Adolphus Towns, Right to Repair ensures that all information and tools provided to the new car dealer by the car company are also made available to the independent aftermarket. The information would not be free, but would be provided hopefully at a fair and reasonable price. This bill would not prohibit new technology, but would rather, similar to the Clean Air Act, ensure that the use of technology on vehicles would not act to the detriment of competition, the aftermarket, and in the end, the consumer. Car companies have strongly opposed passage of right to repair based on two contentions. One, that all the information is already available, and two, that this is a veiled approach by the independent aftermarket to obtain the trade secrets of the car companies. AAIA and CARE do not dispute the fact that the car companies have done a better job of making information and tools available to our industry. However, much of this progress has not come due to their willingness to ensure competition for customers, but instead EPA's service information rules and political pressure that has been brought on them by consideration of this right to repair legislation. Should Congress ultimately decide not to enact right to repair legislation, we have little doubt that car companies will be under extensive commercial pressure to cut our industry out of access to information. Why are we concerned? Car companies and dealer franchises are now making significantly more money on their parts and service industry, part of the market. According to NADA, even though dealership parts and service department sales comprise 11.8% of a typical dealer's total sales, it contributes 48% of the total operating profit. New car sales, 60% of total sales, but only contribute 35% to total profit. Absent legislation, the need by car companies and their dealers to maximize profits from parts and service will override in the long run any current cooperation we may be receiving. As to their allegations that our industry is looking for access to trade secrets, one only needs to look at the composition of our industry to understand why this is not true. Many of the companies that produce parts for our industry in the vehicle aftermarket are the same companies that supply car companies with original equipment parts. In other words, the part in the aftermarket box may be the same as the part in the original equipment box, just the label is different, and oh yeah, the cost may be considerably less. Further, maybe most importantly, the bill provides significant protections for the car company trade secrets, only requiring them to make available to the aftermarket the same information they make available to their dealer network. This language is similar to Clean Air Act provisions protecting car company trade secrets. It is important to note that since the promulgation of the Clean Air Act, there is 1990 amendments, there has never been an intellectual property dispute regarding EPA requirements for emissions-related information or tools. Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee, America's car owners are already being hit with much higher fuel costs, which are making it even more difficult to use a vehicle for even the most basic necessities. Should a competitive repair market disappear, car owners will find the cost of car ownership shooting up even further. After all, they bought the car, they should be able to obtain repairs where they would like to get them accomplished, whether it's themselves or an independent shop or a dealer. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this testimony, and I'm